Hello, this is JOMAJ Studios and this is our original fantasy action adventure, Slay, The Path of a Saint, Episode 6. In the next 4 years that passed, Nii faced and destroyed over 1,500 demons, all of different shapes and sizes. Everywhere he went and everything he did seemed to end up in him going head to head with a demon, or in some cases, several demons. During those years, his most memorable experience had to have taken place in the summer that followed his JS3 examinations. The exams that, if passed, would make him a senior. By the time we had all reached JS3, a lot had happened. Tokwe and Rebecca were an item for half of JS1 and the whole of JS2. Rebecca dumped Tokwe, who then didn't speak to her for a whole term, but they later made up and became good friends. Ajibola joined the school football team as a goalkeeper and was pretty good. Everyone loved him until the day we played King's College, who had a half-demon striker with incredible abilities. He scored 20 goals for his school team, which made Ajibola look very uncool, hence causing him to be kicked off the team. Unfortunately for the striker, Nii had to slay him, seeing as he needed human flesh to sustain his powers. Nii then found out Rebecca had strong feelings for him, as she revealed them on a Sunday afternoon. He couldn't start anything with her because 1, she was once Tokwe's girl, and 2, the whole Slayer calling had put him off having a standard life, which was pretty normal. I was just helping him take out demons, while enjoying life to the max. At times, it was clear he thought I was having way too much fun. There was also a new member of our crew. His name was Tochukwu, but we called him Beefy. An average height kid like the rest of us. He, however, was very dark and had curly hair. He got that nickname because he would always use the term Beefy instead of big. Beefy wasn't the only one with a nickname. Nii's was Ling, which was short for linguistic. He got that name because he got the lowest Nigerian language score in the entire block 2 years in a row. Ajibola was either called Ajibs, which was just a short version of his name, or Catch, because of his experience as a goalkeeper. Tokwe's nickname was Mijo, which came from the word midget. His other nickname was Bite Size. He got those names because he was very short in JS1. The name continued to stick with him, even when he caught up with us in height. After our JS3 exams, Nii decided to do something special for us. He organized a trip to England for the whole crew. Rebecca, however, couldn't come because her father didn't like the idea of her going away for a month with 4 teenage boys. Nii's father, being wealthy and generous, paid for everything. We stayed with Nii's auntie Marcia in Hackney. She was his dad's younger sister, and at the same time she was a gorgeous 36-year-old, and she knew it. Tall and slim with long black hair, brown eyes and all the essential necessities, if you know what I mean. The crew of course noticed this and didn't hide the fact as soon as we began chatting in our room. Nii's auntie had the face and body of a supermodel, along with the cooking skills of a crippled orangutan. His auntie couldn't cook to save her life, and the sad thing was she was totally oblivious to this fact. And believe me when I say she went out of her way to treat us to the torture, which was her home-cooked meals. The night we arrived, she greeted us with one of her specialties, yam porridge. She called it a welcome gift. We saw it as a punishment. Well, most of us anyway. You see, entering our early teens, Tokwe developed a high metabolism, which meant he could eat anything that was edible in large quantities. The very next day, we began to enjoy ourselves. We relaxed and had a swell time at the video arcades, went shopping, and Tochukwu, being the womanizer that he was, got us all invited to a girls' midnight summer party. Her name was Sandra. She was our age, tall, slim, with short brown hair, tan-skinned, and brown eyes. It was obvious she came from an upper-class background. In order to make an impression, we all wore matching black designer suits. We all looked very smart, and all of us walking into the party at the same time made quite an impression. The party took place on the roof of a luxurious set of flats, and was quite impressive. There was a pool, a barbecue, good music, and everyone was surprisingly friendly. 2 hours into the party, Nii was stuffing his face with chicken when he noticed a red star shining directly over the party. He looked to his left, then to his right, and then he noticed it. Something was flying right at us, and no one was aware of this fact except for him. It was a demon, which was about 7 feet in height, extremely skinny and hairless. In fact, it looked like a gremlin, only this gremlin had big bat wings. The creature had a large wingspan and big eagle-like claws as feet. He couldn't let that thing get close to the party, because if it did, it would kill a lot of innocent kids. He needed to act quickly, so he ran and pulled me away from a group of girls. Before I could complain, he drew my attention to the approaching demon. "A distraction, now!" he ordered with great haste. Now seeing the demon, I didn't hesitate. I ran to the DJ's table, stopped the music, put on a background beat to an old 90s R&B song and began to sing, quite well if I do say so myself. So well, I captured the attention of everyone in the party. Everyone except Nee. As soon as the demon was about 30 meters away from the building, he leaped right onto it and started punching. This caused the demon and Nee to plummet towards the ground. In mid-air, as they were falling, Nee ripped out the demon's heart with his bare hands, causing its body to immediately burn up in mid-air, while he landed feet first on the ground. Nee then went back into the party to finish his chicken. About 3 days after that incident, my auntie's 19-year-old son, Senyo, returned back from a holiday in Ghana. Senyo at the time was a bit plump and about 5 foot 8 inches in height, and very arrogant. His laughter in particular was so irritating, and believe me when I say he used to laugh at everything. As irritating as he was, Senyo was no fool. In fact, he was extremely successful. An A-grade student, the team captain of his university's hockey team, editor of his university's paper, head of his university's debate team, and a general show-off. The night that followed his arrival, I overheard Auntie Marcia ask him to take us out. Of course he didn't want to, but his mom made him. And he moaned and moaned. I remember his exact words. "Do I have to? There's such a bunch of waste men." Eventually he yielded to what his mother asked. Meanwhile, I, Beefy and Ajibs were in the sitting room playing video games. "Have you seen Tokwe around?" Nee asked as he returned from the toilet. "Yeah, he said he felt like going for a walk about 30 minutes ago," informed Beefy, with his eyes still glued to the TV. "It's getting dark. I better go looking for him before he gets himself lost," Nee said to himself. Lord knows everyone in the room wasn't listening to him. Nee was about to leave the room when Senyo bursted in and switched off the TV, announcing, "People, I'm taking you all out for Chinese." "Wow, we are all so excited, we just don't know what to say," chorused the crew sarcastically. "Good, then get your coats," ordered Senyo, ignoring our attitude. "You guys go ahead. Tokwe and I will catch up with you lot later." "Okay, we'll be at the only Chinese eating joint near the estate," informed Senyo. A couple of minutes later, Nee found himself wandering around the area, hoping he would bump into Tokwe. "Hi there," said a voice. He turned round to see who was greeting him and found it was Sandra. "Hi, thanks again for inviting me and my friends to your party. We had a wonderful time." "That's okay. My friends and I thought you guys were pretty cool." "We thought you all were cool as well, especially you." "My friends and I are hanging out there in the park. You can join us if you want." "I'd love to, but I better find my friend first." "Is it the one you call Bite Size?" "Yes, why, have you seen him?" "Yes, a couple of minutes ago he was walking through the park." Meanwhile, I, Ajibs and Beefy had already ordered. While waiting, we were forced to listen to Senyo brag about his wonderful life. "So how about you guys? What major exams have you had to take?" "Well, before coming here we did our GSS examinations," I answered, hoping my reply would shut him up, but it didn't. "JSS exams? They sound pretty important," Senyo said with a condescending tone. "Well, they are. They determine whether we become seniors or not," added Ajibs, who at that point was thinking of a way to humiliate Nee's arrogant cousin. "Really? Don't you need an IQ to do those exams?" insulted Senyo, then laughing afterwards. "Look guys, it has wit," I remarked. While his friends had to endure Senyo, Nee was making his way through the park. It was getting dark, plus it was going to be a full moon that night. Not that he was in a hurry or anything. After all, deep in his mind, Nee was sure Tokwe could look after himself. He only really used looking for him as an excuse to take a walk to clear his mind and get some fresh air. After about 20 minutes of wandering around the park, he spotted Tokwe from a distance. Nee called out to him, but Tokwe didn't answer. Instead, he ran off like he was in some kind of pain. Nee ran after him into the forest area of the park. Finally, he caught up with Tokwe, and when he did, Tokwe was on his knees holding his stomach, as though the pain he was in had got worse. "Are you alright?" Nee asked, now very concerned. "Get away from me!" Tokwe cried. The clouds then cleared and the moon was out. Tokwe then began to scream loudly, and the louder he screamed, the more his voice underwent an indescribable change, like he was becoming some kind of wild animal. Then right in front of Nee, Tokwe morphed into a 7-foot creature that was half man and half wolf. Tokwe morphed into a werewolf. Empowerment came to Nee, but the slayer didn't attack. The shock of witnessing Tokwe's transformation froze him. Tokwe looked Nee in the eye, growled, then ran off into the woods. About 30 seconds after he had run off, Nee snapped out of his stunned state of mind and then began to quietly follow him. Back at the restaurant, we had begun to eat, and Senor was tired of hanging out with us. Hurry up so I can take you guys back home. I do have a social life, you know. You could have fooled me, remarked Ajibs. Senor started getting agitated because he knew he had to take us home before he could even think about going about his business. We knew this and did everything we could to waste his time. One of the methods we used was to eat at a ridiculously slow pace while making eye contact with him. "Hey, sugar lips," greeted a tall, slim young lady with long black hair and smooth brown skin. She wore a pink dress which showed quite a bit of cleavage. She was gorgeous, so much so Ajibs and Beefy stopped everything they were doing to stare. The strange thing was, she wasn't talking to a tall, dark, handsome stranger. She was talking to Senor. "Hey, sweet thing," greeted Senor, then giving her a kiss on the lips and allowing her to sit on his lap. "My parents are going to be out all evening. I would really like for you to come and keep me company later on." "I'll be over in about 2 hours. I just have to babysit some of my cousin's friends." "Okay, sugar lips. I'll be counting the minutes." She then kissed Senor and walked out of the eating joint. Before any of the guys could comment on what had just happened, another young lady walked in. She was of average height, extremely fit with ebony-colored skin and short curly black hair. She was even more gorgeous than the lady that had just left. She too surprised us by going up to Nee's cousin, sitting on his lap and giving him a kiss. "I've missed you, sweet cheeks," she then said, playing with his nose. "I've missed you too, honey bun. I need some company tonight. Are you up for it?" "You know I am. I'll be there in 4 hours." "Okay, don't be late." She then got up and left. "How?" Beefy wanted to speak, but he was lost for words. "It's the weather. It makes them blind as well as crazy," said Ajibs. "Yak all you like. The fact is, I'm getting and you're not. Maybe when you all grow up, you might be a player just like your Uncle Senor," gloated Nee's cousin, who was rather pleased with himself. "Oh, Uncle Senor, sweet thing just saw honey bun French kiss you. Don't believe me? Look at the doorway," informed Ajibs happily. Senor looked towards the doorway, and sure enough, the first young lady that had approached him was by the doorway giving him a dirty look. When her eyes met with his, she walked out of the restaurant. Senor ran after her, while my friends laughed their heads off. My watch then went off, and after reading its message, I picked up my coat. "Guys, I have to go. When Senor gets back, tell him I had to go meet someone, and that I'll find my own way back to the house." Meanwhile, back at the park, Nee was following Tokwe through the woods like a monkey. He was moving from tree to tree, which is why Tokwe didn't notice him. Nee had to make sure he wasn't a danger to others before he could even think about slaying him. For despite what Nee had seen, Tokwe was a friend. He was like a little brother to him. Finally, Tokwe stopped and hid behind some bushes. Nee was on top of a tree opposite the bushes, which was where he was ready to stay until the next morning. But that wasn't going to happen. He had stayed in a tree for about 3/4 of an hour when a young couple came running through the woods. They stopped in front of Nee's tree and began to kiss passionately. "Let's go behind those bushes," suggested the woman as she began to unbutton her lover's shirt. The man said nothing and just followed his partner's lead towards the bushes. Nee wanted to stop them, but everything happened so fast. They got as far as 3 meters from the bush before Tokwe jumped out growling. They both screamed and ran off. Tokwe didn't chase them, but it seemed like he just wanted to scare them off. Then out of nowhere, I jumped out with a flying kick, which took Tokwe to the floor. From my perspective, Tokwe was about to harm the couple. Then I brought out Bill, unleashed its saber, and was about to finish the werewolf off. "No!" Nee screamed as he jumped down from the tree, kicking out Bill from my hand before finally landing with both feet firmly on the ground. In that same instant, Tokwe leaped over us and made his way through the woods with immense speed. "What do you think you're doing?" I asked, not believing what Nee just did. "That was Tokwe. What exactly is your point?" Not having much time to say anything else, I leaped up into the air and began moving through the trees with as much agility as Nee displayed when fully empowered. That was the first time Nee ever saw me move like that. He ran, knowing he would easily catch up with the werewolf on foot. You see, by now, Nee's powers had already begun to rub off on him. This meant he was just as fast and as agile without empowerment, but not as strong, for he only had the strength of 3 grown men combined, which was nothing compared to the strength he possessed while fully empowered. It took only a couple of seconds for me to catch up with Tokwe. As soon as the werewolf was in sight, I executed a mid-air twist with a front flip and landed right in front of the half-demon. Tokwe, now under a lot of pressure, pounced at me. I in turn rolled under him. Tokwe landed on his feet, jumped right back at me. This time I greeted him with a well-connecting uppercut, which sent the werewolf straight to the ground. I was about to move in for the kill when Nee jumped right in my way. "I can't let you do this," Nee said, hoping I would back off. "Nee, we can talk about this after I kill the werewolf," I said calmly. The look in my eyes showed I would go through Nee if I had to. Nee said nothing, for it was obvious he wasn't moving. "Okay, Ling, this is going to hurt me as much as it is going to hurt you." Then, without warning, I executed an aerial attack, which Nee didn't see coming. This attack consisted of 3 hits, 2 kicks and a punch. The first hit was a kick, which moved Nee out of the way and also gave me the momentum to push towards Tokwe with a kick and a punch, before finally landing back on my feet. This attack threw Nee and Tokwe both about 10 meters away from me in opposite directions. Not only did Nee find out I was fast and agile, but that, like him, was also pretty strong. He had seen me in action previously, but nothing like this. My strength equaled that of a master demon, which meant without Nee's empowerment, it would take twice as much to recover from the pain. But that night, Tokwe's presence and the Slayer's determination to help his friend allowed Nee to flip to his feet immediately he touched the ground. I had already leaped into the air for another attack on Tokwe, but thanks to Nee's speed, he was able to leap into the air with an aerial flying kicking attack, which sent me straight to the ground back first, while he landed on his feet. I didn't even waste time. Immediately Nee's feet touched the ground. While I was still lying on the floor, I swung my feet around, executing a capoeira-like sweep, and cleared Nee's feet off the ground. Nee didn't fall. Instead, he went straight into a handstand and thrust himself to his feet. As Nee landed, he was immediately greeted by a series of attacks delivered by myself, after getting to my feet with immense speed. Nee dodged a few attacks until he got careless and was forced to start blocking. Without his empowerment, as a result of facing me directly, there was no way he could match my strength, which was why blocking my attacks to him was as good as being hit by them. After about 15 blocks later, Nee could no longer ignore the pain. While his pain distracted him, I took him to the floor with a solid back kick. "Darn it, he got away," I shouted, now looking around for Tokwe, who was nowhere to be found. Nee was on the floor in agony, and he was no longer filled with determination to save his friend. After all, he had already achieved that. Nee was now filled with anger and humiliation, for I had just beaten him with what seemed to be very little effort, which made him feel small. His anger drove him to get to his feet and charge at me, screaming. He ended up ramming me straight into a tree. I was strong and fast, but I was not invulnerable, which is why my arm broke. It was my shout of pain, which brought Nee back to his senses. He wanted to help me, but after what he did to me, there was no way I would let him. "Don't touch me," I yelled, as I made my way through the woods. Nee didn't bother going after me, for somehow he got the impression I was capable of handling myself, even if I had one hand. He also knew I wouldn't try facing a werewolf while injured, which also put his mind at ease. Nee wandered around the woods for hours until it was about 3 in the morning, when he finally made his way home. Nee was about to enter his room when he heard a noise that came from Senyor's room, so he went to see what it was. Entering the room, he saw Senor in his underwear pinned to the wall by an invisible force. Standing in front of him, brandishing a knife, was a girl Senor ran after at the restaurant. He didn't catch up with her to give his flimsy excuse. Unfortunately for him, she turned out to be a half-demon, ready to use her powers to avenge her broken heart. "Drop the knife and leave. If you do this, no harm will come to you," said Nee, hoping she would yield to his warning. She threw her knife to the floor and turned to face him. Taking her concentration away from Senor caused him to fall off the wall. She then morphed into a 6-foot mutant creature that was half wildcat and half human, with sharp claws, snow-white fur, and pink eyes. Even as a demon, this girl was cute. Senor began to laugh hysterically, for he was having some kind of nervous breakdown. The demon then approached Nee and put its face right in front of his, and stared. Its eyes said, "You have 5 seconds to run out of this room." It was obvious this demon wasn't going to listen to Nee, and quite frankly, he wasn't in the mood. So he headbutted it and kicked it repeatedly with his right leg 8 times in its face, and finally finished it off with an aerial roundhouse kick with his left leg, which sent it flying out of the window. The room wasn't that high up from the ground, so the demon wasn't hurt. The creature was smart and didn't come back for more. Instead, it ran off. Senor was still laughing, so Nee calmed him down the only way he thought was effective. He hit him, knocking him out cold. Senor later woke up with the illusion that the whole thing was a dream. Surprisingly, after all that commotion, no one woke up. Nee was tired, so he went to bed. Nee ended up waking about 4 in the afternoon. The whole house was quiet. He was lying in bed trying to get himself together when his auntie came bursting into the room with some clean bed sheets. "Finally, you're awake. Change the bed sheets when you get up," she said, dropping some sheets on his bed. "Is anyone in?" Nee asked quickly before she left. "Just your friend Tokwe. Everyone else has gone out." With that, she winked at him and left the room. After freshening up, Nee went downstairs to the sitting room where Tokwe was watching TV. "Hi," Nee greeted, standing at the entrance of the room, not hiding the fact that he was feeling very awkward. "Hi," replied Tokwe, who was also beginning to show some signs of discomfort. Nee had to get some questions answered quickly, so he sat beside Tokwe and started asking. "Were you bitten last night?" "No, Ling," said Tokwe, after interrupting with a short laugh. "I've been a werewolf long before last night." He then paused, shook his head and continued. "I don't know how or when it happened, but at the age of 6, I began to be aware of abnormal senses like a strong sense of smell and hearing. My first full change happened 2 years later." "Does your family know?" "No, I've managed to keep this hidden from everyone. In school every month when I visit my guardian, I really go to hide in the forest to change." "Have you ever killed anyone?" "Yes, I have. I do have full control over myself while I'm a werewolf. That is why I remember clearly how it happened. I was almost 9 at the time. My parents and I were spending our Easter holidays in Paris. The full moon came a week after our arrival. I began to feel pains that were a warning of my transformation. There wasn't much time to go when I found a dark alley. As I entered the alleyway, I found myself surrounded by these men. There were 4 of them, and they were just like homeless people. And they stank of alcohol. Even now, I don't know what they wanted from me. All I know is they started pushing me. I remember pleading for them to stop. That's when one of them slapped me. As I fell to the floor, the clouds moved off, revealing the full moon. I changed, and out of anger, I lashed out. Although at the time I was so sure they deserved what happened to them, I was unable to live with myself for a while. After that, I vowed never to take a life, no matter what. Every half-demon is given a choice. Have you been forced to choose between being a human and a werewolf? No, but I have been given a choice between a werewolf and dying. Last month, I was approached by some other werewolves. They said I should use my gift for the cause of my kind, or waste my gift in death. They are coming to get my answer at the next full moon. That is why I came on this trip, to get away. But they caught up with me last night. Cause? Their cause is to kill as many human beings as possible. Something I can't do, explained Tokwe. Don't worry, I will not let anything happen to you, Nee assured sincerely. They went out to see a film, after which they went to get something to eat, where Tokwe told Nee all about his near-death experiences. Their outing finally came to an end about 11 in the evening. When they got home, the house was full. Ajibs and Beefy were playing video games like they usually did whenever they spent an evening in the house. Senior was in his bedroom doing God knows what, and I was in the room where we all slept. Tokwe joined Ajibs and Beefy while Nee came to talk to me. I was on my bed reading a comic book. As Nee entered, I acknowledged his presence by giving him a dirty look. I then continued reading. "Hey there," Nee greeted. I said nothing. I was ignoring him. "I see your hand has healed up," Nee said, noticing the hand he had broken the previous night was completely healed. You see, although I wasn't invulnerable, I healed 50 times faster than the average person. I still said nothing and continued to read my book. "Look, you want to ignore me? Fine. But I'm going to talk and you're going to listen," Nee said, at that point fed up with my attitude. He then continued. "I talked with Tokwe. He said he has full control of himself as a werewolf, and I believe him." "A demon lying. Gee, that's new," I remarked sarcastically, without even looking at him. Nee ignored me and went on. "Last night I followed him right after he changed. Tayo, he was hiding. The couple you saw him jump at, he was just trying to scare away. He doesn't go out of his way to hurt people." At this point, I put my comic book on the floor, got up from my bed and walked right up to Nee. "So tell me this. He came up with all this after you followed him around for a couple of minutes. Oh no, of course you also had a little conversation with him." Nee, listen very carefully. A werewolf admitting it has no control over itself is like a crocodile doing opera. It never happens. I've seen nicer guys become werewolves and tear up innocent people without any hesitation. You say he was just trying to scare the couple off last night. Tell me something. What if they weren't scared? What would he have done then? Furthermore, he didn't stop himself from trying to take a piece out of me, I said. I then walked to the door of the room, stopped, turned around and added, by the way, that half-demon you let live this morning, I slayed. A half-demon that will come into someone's house to kill has definitely killed before. And a demon that has killed before will kill again. Please remember that before sparing any monster's life. With that, I walked out of the room. Nii knew I was right about the half-demon that attacked Senyo, but he was so sure I was wrong about Tokwe. But Nii also knew that if he was wrong about Tokwe, the blood of anyone that dies by his friend's hand will be on him. For a while, I didn't say much to Nii. In fact, the only time we spoke was when it involved slaying a demon. However, we were able to mask our issue in such a way that everyone else didn't notice. Although I avoided talking to Nii and Tokwe, I was watching them both closely. Even when they couldn't spot me, Nii knew I was watching. Before the arrival of the next full moon, I spoke to Nii only once. It was during a road trip organized by Senyo. He had just borrowed a brand new convertible sports car, and so decided to take us all to a theme park. His plan was to dump us at the theme park and go to a nearby party. Normally, this would have been a great opportunity to get him into trouble, but he paid us a lot of money to keep our mouths shut. Money we gladly took. The trip was going great. There was good weather, loud music, an empty country road, and wind blowing in our faces. It was perfect. Then I nudged Nii. Flare, 12 o'clock, I said, directing his attention to a red star over a field that was up ahead. Stop the car, Nii shouted without thinking. This startled Senyo and caused him to brake suddenly. What? Yelled Senyo. I need to pee. Before everyone began to verbally massacre him, he jumped out of the car and ran towards the area the red star was hovering over, which was about 200 meters away from where Senyo parked. Nii ended up on a big field, which was used by the military to test new weapons. At the time, he didn't know this. He looked around, but he couldn't see a demon anywhere. After about an hour of searching, he heard the sound of a vehicle heading his way. It was Senyo. He and his passengers had lost their patience and so decided to come after him. What the hell do you think you're doing? Asked Senyo as he parked right beside Nii. I lost the necklace our dead grandmother gave me, and I was looking for it, Nii lied quickly. Suddenly there was a loud crashing sound, and Nii's cousin's car jolted vigorously. A small missile had hit his car and was stuck in its boot. By sheer reflex, everyone in the car jumped out. My car! Screamed Senyo. At that point, the rest of us didn't know whether to start apologizing or to start laughing. Don't get yourself into a state. It's really not that noticeable, said Ajibola, who was really trying to lighten the mood. You can see there's a missile stuck in the back of my car, asked Senyo, not believing what Ajibola had just said. Okay, let's not panic. There has to be a mechanic nearby. They can fix this. All we have to do is to drive. Are you crazy? There's no way I'm getting into that car. The missile could go off any time. In fact, I don't even know why we're still near this car, said Beefy, interrupting my attempt to calm down and organize the situation. So what should we do then? Nii asked, knowing we need a solution fast. Run! I yelled, drawing all our attention to a creature running straight at us. It was red in color, with the body of a rhino only twice as big, with metal spikes all over it. Its head was like that of a triceratops dinosaur, only it looked like it was inside out. I didn't even have to shout a second time, for after one look at the creature, everyone ran off with speed. Nii, however, jumped on the top of the car, which the demon charged straight into, causing it to explode. The explosion threw the demon and Nii to the floor hard. His clothes were now rags, and he along with the demon were dazed. Nii, however, was able to gain back momentum first. When he did, he wasted no time in ripping out the demon's heart with his bare hands. Minutes later, we were all rounded up by the military, who, after putting us through a number of assessments, escorted all of us back home. Senyo found himself in a world of trouble with his mother, seeing as we were his responsibility. The night finally came 2 weeks later. The night Tokwe had to tell his fellow werewolves his decision. The meeting point was a big open field in the middle of nowhere. A note said to meet them there at sunset. Tokwe was about 2 hours early. He sat on the grass floor and waited for the moment he would have to refuse to join the pack and face up to the consequence. An hour passed when 4 ordinary-looking men dressed in black robes approached him. Tokwe only recognized 2 of them. They were amongst the werewolves that approached him a couple of weeks ago. "Hello, brother. Do you remember us?" said one of the men he recognized, who seemed to be the leader of the group. "Yes, I remember you, replied Tokwe, gathering enough courage to face the worst. Good. So have you come to a decision? Yes, I have. I've decided not to join your pack. I will not willingly kill people I deem as innocent. If you feel that way, then you know what we must do, said the leader. After finishing his sentence, all 4 men morphed into werewolves. This was unexpected. Until that day, none of us were aware of the existence of werewolves that were so much in control of their power that they could transform without a full moon. Tokwe was in imminent danger, and to make matters worse, he was frozen with fear. He leaped out of his hiding place, which was a small pit covered with grass, leaves and twigs, right beside where Tokwe was standing. Landing in between Tokwe and the werewolves, Nii was fully empowered. Tokwe, run! Nii yelled as he began to fight off the werewolves. These werewolves were strong and fast. If not for Nii's invulnerability, they would have torn him into pieces before he could even take a breath. Despite the pain they inflicted on Nii, he managed to hold them off. Things went from bad to worse. For out of nowhere, hundreds of werewolves began to run towards the slayer. Nii had no choice but to run. He had only run about 50 meters when he saw Tokwe moving back slowly and cautiously, for hundreds of werewolves were coming from his direction as well. They were surrounded. Nii had got himself into a situation he was totally unprepared for. At that point, he couldn't see any way out of his predicament. "Hey, dog breaths, over here," called out a voice. It was me, holding a proton gun and standing about 10 meters away from all the action. Immediately I got their attention, I started shooting. After the first shot, Tokwe and Nii ran behind me. Except for Tokwe, no werewolf survived that day. When the shooting stopped, we were surrounded by blood and body parts. "Thanks. I don't know why I doubted you would pull through," Nii said, glad that Tokwe was in one piece. I looked at Nii. I wasn't smiling. In fact, the expression that was on my face showed I was still upset with him. The moment your friend even gives a hint he's hungry for human flesh, I'll slay him myself, I warned, then walking off. "Are you okay?" Nii asked, turning to Tokwe. "I'm fine. I'm sorry you had to hear that." "Don't be. He's right. If I ever get out of control, promise me you will put me out of my misery." "I promise, but I know it would never come to that. I hope you're right, for my sake." That is the end of episode 6. The scripture for this episode is Proverbs 14 verse 12. "There is a way which seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death." How would you relate this scripture with this episode? And how would you relate this scripture to your life? Leave your answers on any of the JOMAJ Studios social media platforms, which can be found at jomajstudios.com. The Fall of Nell is now available on paperback and Kindle at Amazon. For more details, go to jomajstudios.com and click on Bookstore. Also at jomajstudios.com, you can check out our YouTube page, Facebook page, Twitter page, and our Instagram page, and other website features. See how you can get involved with us at jomajstudios.com.